At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
And I am Anthony Siede, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. A pleasant welcome, by the way. And thanks ever so much for joining the broadcast. We will request that you do that. Use your favor. Share this broadcast with somebody. We have a presentation for you. We believe it will be succinct. The audit report got all of us talking. And I need to say that again. I say the audit report got all of us talking. And I want to talk my own Focus on Liberia is here to focus on the audit report. What is in the audit report? The audit report is alarming. The figures are unbelievable. Definitely, you don't have to be a financial expert. You don't have to be an auditor. You don't have to be a forensic scientist to know that these numbers are alarming, to know that the audit report is alarming. And we talk to throw the spotlight on the audit report to see what the audit report findings actually are and how alarming the audit report is, how alarming the figures are. It is obvious. Folks at the central bank, they were just having a good time doing what we call business as usual. I mean, when we talk about business as usual, it is just doing things the unusual way, the corrupt way. Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you. And we will go into this presentation in no time. And so, At long last, we have yet another audit report on the Central Bank of Liberia. And the Central Bank of Liberia audit report show a lot of non-compliance issues and also financial transactions that are very much irregular. And we're talking about financial irregularities that took place at the Central Bank of Liberia. Now, when you bring it to the president of Liberia, Joseph Yemambwaka, he held the belief in no time that, look, this is so serious, and so he wasted no time and suspended the central bank governor, J. Aloysius Talu. That is the executive governor of the Central Bank of Liberia. That got me thinking, wait a minute, is that guy the only one at the central bank who is liable for these irregularities at the central bank as unveiled by this particular audit report for which the president wasted no time? It is obvious he's not the only one. We are talking millions and millions of dollars, and we're talking about Liberian dollars. We're talking billions of dollars disbursed on the counter at the central bank in violation of our financial laws. And then the president thinks it is just one person who must go, and he let him go in no time through suspension. Hey, we have some of the figures, we have the findings in the audit report, and hey, you want to share this broadcast with somebody because you can't be the only one to benefit from this information. We have looked at the report, and we want to share some of the findings with you that are so much alarming. So here we go with some of the findings from the central bank audit report. Now, as you can see here, General Audit Commission audit revealed Central Bank of Liberia disbursed US 178 million and about 2 billion Liberian dollar over the counter to government institutions in Liberia. Wow. So what's in the report? What is the General Auditing Commission even highlighting those two big figures, 178 million United States dollars disbursed on the counter, and about 2 billion Liberian dollars also disbursed on the counter under questionable circumstances. So if we look at the report, we get to know that excessive expenditure and deficit financing, meaning the central bank management exceeded approved expenditure limits from fiscal year 2018 to 2022 by approximately 19.31 million. This is United States dollars we're talking about here. So the Central Bank of Liberia exceeded the limit. The bank, based on our financial law, should have a limit of what is spent. But according to the audit report, the central bank exceeded the limit by 19.31 million. In other words, $90 million. So they far exceeded the limit that they should be using at the Central Bank of Liberia. Now, another thing the central bank, the audit report on the central bank revealed is the fact that there was improper over-the-counter transactions. Improper over-the-counter transaction, meaning the central bank management cashed several checks over the counter, violating standard banking regulations. Example, the bank exceeded, examples include payment of $8,500 to Vision Pro and $8,000 to the West Point Youth Association. Another one is unauthorized government payroll financing. The GSC report identified unauthorized financing activities, including a $50.2 million disbursement to the government of Liberia's payroll account on November 30th, 2023, and an additional $32.8 million on December 23rd, 2023. So, folks, let us read the findings further. Let us read the findings further, and then we will be able to provide the explanation around these things. All right. And the finding continues. Staff loan deficit irregularities. The audit found significant issues with the management of non-performing staff loans, totaling US $472,000 for separate staff and US $240,634, that was 80 cents for secondary staff. Notable defaulters include former Finance Minister Augustine K. Gaffouin, owing $5,091.29, and Sano County Senator Creighton O. Duncan, owing $44,924.43. The report continues. Potential money laundering concerns. The GSC report raised concerns about potential money laundering, noticing that CBL facilitated payments totaling LD 1.9 billion and US 178.3 million above approved thresholds. These payments included large sums such as US 121 million for the National Security Agency and US 23 million for the Executive Protection Service. Now, let's read further here. Unapproved legal and consultancy expenses. Significant legal expenses amounting to US $742,120 were disbursed to staff for subsequent payment to consultants. Additionally, unsolicited payments exceeding approved amounts were made, including one, US $1,084,027 for corporate social responsibility initiatives. It reads further, lack of competitive bidding process in procurement. Contracts totaling 11.08 million were awarded without competitive bidding, lacking appropriate procurement documentation. Folks, let us leave it there for now. You heard it for yourself. These are the findings from the audit report on the Central Bank of Liberia conducted by the General Auditing Commission. These are serious irregularities. And like I said earlier, you don't have to be an accountant. You don't have to be a forensic investigator. You don't have to be a financial expert. You don't have to be a banker for you to understand that these numbers are very questionable. They are alarming. And these numbers definitely suggest questionable transaction at the Central Bank of Liberia. And you should also understand that the report is coming from the General Auditing Commission. They are aware of our financial laws. What you can do when it comes to financial transaction at any financial institution. The General Auditing Commission is well versed with these laws concerning financial transactions in our country. So based on their knowledge, based on their expertise, their knowledge of our financial laws, based on the ethics governing the profession, especially in banking and all that, they conducted a detailed and thorough audit of the Central Bank of Liberia to show how the Central Bank of Liberia has been operating. And it is obvious, based on the findings that we just read, folks at the Central Bank of Liberia, since 2018 to 2023, have been having a lot of fun with the people's money. That is what they have been up to, as revealed and clearly reported in this audit report from the General Auditing Commission. So let us break those things down. One of the things they talk about is the lack of competitive bidding. We have an institution in Liberia called the PPCC. That institution is there to ensure that before government can give a contract to a contractor, there must be what we call a bidding process, because there cannot be one person or one contractor with interest for a particular contract. And when you put it off a bill, and that is by law, and that's what government must do, let the contract be announced to contractors who have interest. Let them bid. And when they bid, you will get to know that one of the contractors can even do the job at a very low cost to save government money. And more so, maybe you will find a contractor that will do a more effective job. The reason also is that so that contracts cannot just be awarded to individuals or businesses because of special interest. But as the audit report revealed, the Central Bank of Liberia awarded contracts without going through the competitive bidding process required by law. As a result of that, the central bank is guilty for failing not to follow the law that requires competitive bidding process in awarding contracts to contractors in the Republic of Liberia. So according to the GSE, the central bank of all institutions failed to go through a competitive bidding process or to subject contractors to a competitive bidding process before awarding them contracts. And we're talking about contracts in the tune of several thousand and millions of dollars here. According to our financial laws, you cannot award contract without subjecting the contractors to a competitive bidding process. So the Central Bank of Liberia is guilty of that. So when you don't go through a competitive bidding process, more than likely, you are choosing who you will award the contract to. Maybe you have special interest with that particular entity or that contractor, and then you award a contract, and more than likely, they might be getting some kickbacks from the contractors for awarding them these contractors without a competitive bidding process. Now, another thing is that we have a law in Liberia, and that law is the Anti-Money Laundering, Terrorist Financing, and Preventive Measures and Proceeds of Crimes Act. That law was passed into law in 2021, and it was approved on July the 29th, 2022. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs printed it into handbill on August 12, 2022. This is the law of the land. So the law is against money laundering. Money laundering is a serious crime. Those who abuse public trust, those who engage in theft, they try to hide the stolen wealth, and so they channel it through other means so that people cannot be able to trace the funds to them. This is how others or people who are involved in financial malpractices do it. So that they can't be seen as the one who actually took the money. They try to hide the money through other channels. That is money laundering. So in Liberia, we have a law that is against money laundering. The law is intended to prevent individuals from engaging in the act of money laundering, financing terrorist organizations. That's what the law is intended for. And the law also spells out penalty for individuals who will engage in this kind of behavior. Now, according to the report expressed that they have reason to believe, given the huge amount in questionable transaction, some of the funds must have been completely laundered by these individuals who were involved with this questionable transaction. So let's look at what the law says. One of the things that the law says is that paying more than 10,000 in cash over the counter is illegal. According to that law or this act, it is illegal to pay more than $10,000 cash to an individual over the counter or an institution over the counter. You cannot give cash in a tune of 10,000 United States dollars to the individual over the counter. And now the individual, you cannot even do that to an institution, to give $10,000 cash to an institution on the counter. That is one of the things this law prohibits. So guess what? According to the report released by the General Auditing Commission on the central bank, the folks at the central bank, they had no regard for this law. Even though they are very knowledgeable about the law, they are aware of this law. And you have to understand this. The Central Bank of Liberia is the nation's bank. And the Central Bank of Liberia is a regulatory bank. It regulates all banks in Liberia, and it's also it regulates our monetary policy. So the Central Bank of Liberia should be the last institution to be engaged in violating our financial laws. But it turned out this is exactly based on the auditor reports that the Central Bank of Liberia folks were up to. They were dishing out over $10,000 in cash over the counter at the Central Bank of Liberia. Now, talking about paying more than $10,000 cash over the counter being illegal, the law also sets a limit. The limit for cash payment is $10,000. In other words, you can only disburse $10,000 in cash on a counter. And even if that is to be done, there must be paper trails to that effect. But what did the central bank do? The central bank went over this threshold, this limit of 10,000. They went as far as dishing out, and here it said now, so beyond the threshold, so if you want to give out more than $10,000 at the central bank or at any institution, what can you do? So beyond the threshold of 10,000, use check or wire transfer. In other words, if you are to give money to an individual or institution, and if that amount is above the limit of 10,000 United States dollars, the option you have is to use check or to wire transfer the money. Because when you do, it can be easy to trace. But when you take out $10,000 cash and give it to somebody, it becomes difficult to trace it. So the law requires that beyond the threshold of $10,000 in cash on the counter, you must use check or you must use wire transfer. But the folks at the central bank say, to hell with the law, we will do as we please. And so they were dishing out more than $10,000 in cash on the counter in violation of this act that we just talked about. Now, How much money are we talking about here that they dish out over the counter in violation of this particular law? Here we go. The total of US 178 million. Hello. US 178 million. That's the first total figure in US dollar that they dish out on the counter at the Central Bank of Liberia in violation of the law, talking about money laundering. Now, they didn't stop there to only United States dollars. They took it a step further. They dished out 1.9 billion Liberian dollars on the counter in violation of the law also. So, folks, for President Joseph Yuma Boakai to have seen these alarming figures from this report, to think that only the central bank governor is liable here is laughable. And so the president needs to do the needful. For needless to say that, how can the executive members or governors and deputy governors at the central bank, who are the leaders, who ought to know better, to not violate our financial laws? This is a regulatory institution that is charged with the duty and responsibility of enforcing our financial regulatory laws. It's the one in this business, as usual, violating simple laws and going above the threshold and not following what is required to do at the Central Bank of Liberia. These irregularities, obviously, you don't have to be a financial expert to know that these violations are blatant, they are willful, and they are criminal in nature. And that all the individuals who are the leaders at the Central Bank of Liberia must all be held responsible. Yesterday, I made a presentation in which I made an argument that for the president to suspend the central bank governor, he was in violation of our law, that the president abrogated power to himself that he does not have, because the statute that created the Central Bank of Liberia is clear how to remove any member of the governors at the Central Bank of Liberia. It has to be through what we call the national legislature, because there's something we call checks and balances. We have three equal and separate branches of government, right? And each branch of government has a responsibility. The statute that created the Central Bank of Liberia gave the authority to the legislature to remove any member of the Central Bank of Liberia if any such member has done something that is significant enough and constituting a cause for removal. It is the legislature that must remove any such governor through what we call an impeachment proceeding. It can't be the president of the Republic of Liberia. First, when the Central Bank Act was enacted into law, the president of Liberia had that executive power to remove the central bank governor. The process was also there. But when the law was revised, that power to remove a central bank governor by the president has been taken away. And we are talking about rule of law. Rule of law requires that there must be check and balances. You cannot exercise a power that is not given to you by any of our laws in our country. The president had other means through which he could act. And one of those means that he could use could be using our criminal procedure law against these individuals, giving this audit report very implicating. I mean, there could be a criminal indictment against any member of the central bank governance. And based on that proceeding, you could go to court, you could pray for a writ of arrest, and then you could get him, based on criminal charges. And that is the legal way to do it when you want to abide by the principle called the rule of law. But the president, the executive power to suspend central bank governor has been taken away from the president by the statute creating the Central Bank of Liberia, and that power has been given to the legislature. So the president does not have that power anymore. But that is another debate, maybe for another day. And I had that debate yesterday, that conversation yesterday. So serial crimes obviously are visible here. Serial crimes, very visible here, looking at this particular audit report. And so, folks, if we want to dive deeper into this report, another thing that we must share with you. In the report, the amount of 50 million was moved to the National Security Agency between October of 2023 to December of 2023. Hello? Let me reveal that to you again. The amount of 50 million United States dollars was moved from the central bank to the National Security Agency, the NSA. 15 million United States dollars moved from the Central Bank of Liberia to the National Security Agency. October, November, December. In 3 months, 15 million United States dollars moved from the Central Bank to the National Security Agency. Now, I was having a conversation with a law enforcement professional, and he was like, what was Liberia doing at the time between October of 2023 to December of 2020? What did we have any serious security issues and concerns at the time? The National Security Agency is more about what intelligence and all that. What was going on at that time that the central bank has to dish out in 3 months 15 million United States dollars to the National Security Agency, the NSA, to do what with $3 million? I mean, $15 million, sorry, in 3 months to the NSA. What kind of operation the NSAs were doing? Were they trying to, it said that Osama bin Laden resurrected, and the Liberian government were trying to gather all the intelligence to know where he was so that he could be arrested, and then we could announce to the world, Osama bin Laden resurrected and we arrested him in Liberia, and now he is a guy the United States wanted, so we called in Uncle Sam to say, hey, yes, the wanted man that you've been trying to chase, we got him here. October 2023 to December, Liberia was peaceful. We didn't have any security threat in Liberia. There was no security threat in Liberia. So what did the NSA, the National Security Agency, use 50 million for in 3 months? Our central bank did that. Gave $50 million to the National Security Agency in 3 months. But that is yes, another interesting part of it, folks. Yes, another interesting part of it. President Joseph Boakai, when he took over, President Boakai impressed us that he was serious about accountability. That is the impression Comrade Boakai actually gave us as a people. And he attempted to be very bold and to do something unorthodox, something that has not been done before. President Boakai commissioned an audit for the National Security Agency, the NSA. So President Boakai, the president commissioned and decommissioned the NSA audit. The question is why? Why did the president do that? President Boakai, for some reason, got to know that the National Security Agency has been the hub of corruption. He had reason to believe, and he was right, that the National Security Agency, the NSA, has been that institution of government historically in our nation's history that they make us to believe cannot be audited for some weird reason, which is a lie. It is a big lie because our constitution is clear. Our laws are clear when it comes to audit. Any institution, any individual who receives taxpayers' dollars, especially when such money is appropriated in our budget, that is subject to an audit. That is the law of the land. There is no law that says you cannot audit this institution because that institution work is about intelligence. That is a lie. But our leaders historically created it as a norm, and this is how they have been taking the country's money. I mean, in Liberia, for Christ's sake, look at our nation. What is the security threat we have? Who are the security experts we have in our country? What do they actually do? What kind of intelligence they are gathering, and for what? So the NSA has been receiving allotment in the budget in millions and millions of dollars. And over the years, the NSA has not been audited because the executive branch of government decided to make the NSA is hurt, is pepperboot, where they can just send the money and they rush there and they take the money and put it in their pocket because somehow they created this narrative that that institution cannot be audited, which is a big lie. And so over the years, the NSA had not been audited because president after president, there where they go and just take as much as they want for their own use, and there will be no audit. That is why historically it has been difficult for any audit report to show that this president has taken this money, this president has taken that money, and it has just been mere accusation that the president is corrupt, this president is corrupt. The way they have been doing it is through the NSA. They dish out huge amount of money to the NSA. That is an example the audit report has revealed, that between October of 2023 and December of 2023, 15 million United States dollars was moved from the central bank to the NSA. For what reason, only God knows. And that 50 million is gone. There's no audit report, and there is no report from the NSA to tell us how much that 15 million United States dollars was used. Think about an administration in power for 6 years. Local Unity Party was in power for 12 years, and they were dishing out millions to the NSA. No report how that money, those monies were used. And the same thing with the CDC. And the central bank is just moving money. A regulatory entity of government that should be enforcing our financial laws is the one recklessly, brainlessly, just dishing out money. And there's no accountability whatsoever. And so President Walker, he came with a little zeal, in Liberia we call it a Coca-Cola morale, that he will be different. And that there'll be no business as usual. And in his effort to ensure that there'll be no business as usual, he callously commissioned an audit for the NSA so as to uncover how the Liberian people money have been distributed at the NSA. President Walker projected that he was serious about it. In no time, they recycle politicians and bureaucrats that he hired, ran to him and said, Mr. President, the NSA is an institution that cannot be audited. You can't do that. I have reason to believe that they told him, Mr. President, this is the place that over the year we can't audit this place because this place is they do intelligence over there, because when you audit it, they will have to tell the Liberian people what the money was used for. That is a bluff. That is a lie. The true story is they told him, Mr. President, this is where presidents of Liberia get how much money they want. So this place here, we created a taboo that it cannot be audited. So if you audit this place now, you will be able to uncover or unearth a lot of things, and you yourself will not be able to get as much money as you will need. So, Mr. President, the best thing you can do is to decommission that audit. That place cannot be audited. Who told you that place cannot be audited? What is the law that tells you that place cannot be audited? That is a lie. We have laws in Liberia that mandate the General Auditing Commission to audit every institution of government that receives budgetary allotment from the people of Liberia. So President Mbaka, who was trying to muster a little courage to exercise this pronouncement of no business as usual, became Mr. Business as usual in no time. He decommissioned the audit. The question I'm asking is, why would Mr. Mbaka decommission the audit? Now, $50 million being moved to the National Security Agency in 3 months. Well, we get to know how that money was used. If we cannot audit that play as Mr. Mbaka wants us to believe now, how will we get to know? The obvious reason is Mr. Mbaka himself wants to be involved in that very business as usual, because this is how most of the officials close to the president, especially those at the executive mansion, this is how they connive with the National Security Agency, the NSA, and then siphon the Liberian people money, and no question asked whatsoever, no audit report to expose anything or any of their deeds. And so the president said, I'm not going to audit that place. Look at Central Bank of Liberia. This is our nation's bank. This is where we keep our money. Imagine the violations, the irregularity, the non-compliance attitude exhibited by the governors and other individuals or staff at the Central Bank of Liberia. How much more the NSA? An institutional responsibility is to gather intelligence. They are receiving millions of dollars. I can just imagine how reckless they have been in spending the people's money on just about anything they need, fattening their bank's account. And so, folks, let me bring something else to you here quickly, and I will read that to you. And this aspect now will be on the money laundering issues that I talked about earlier. Let me make this bigger. In the Act of 2021, the act that was passed into law in 2021, the act is the Anti-Money Laundering Act of Liberia. This is a law that was passed by the National Legislature in 2021. And in August of 2022, it was printed into handbill. It became the law of the land that money laundering in Liberia is a financial crime and no one should be involved into it. This law, 15.3.30 or 15.3.31, the mathematician wants us to read the numbers after the point, figure by figure. So 15.3.30, it reads, and the title is Transitional Provisions for Proceeds of Crime. Transitional Provisions for Proceeds of Crime. Now, 15.3.30.1 read, assisting another to retain the benefit of criminal conduct. It continues. Offense of assisting another to retain the benefit of criminal conduct. A person or body corporate or legal or other legal entity is guilty of the offense of assisting another to retain the benefit of criminal conduct if that person or body corporate or other legal entity enters into or is involved in an arrangement whereby the retention or control by or on behalf of another's proceeds of criminal conduct is facilitated by concealment, removal from the jurisdiction, transfer to nominee or otherwise, or made available for disposal or to acquire property by way of investment. Anybody engaged in that kind of attitude, I'm going to explain that further. What is the penalty? What is the charge for that behavior when one engages in that? The grading is the offense of assisting another to retain the benefit of shall be punishable as a first-degree felony. Hello? So this is very clear. It means that when individuals are involved into financial malpractices, and when they shall have carried on their act, they divide the proceeds from their criminality. When they retain what they have stolen, and if they transfer that money to somebody, or when they deposit it something, or when they invest it, it can be an individual, it can be a legal entity meaning an institution that is registered with the government of the Republic of Liberia. Say you register your business, and somebody at Central Bank said, my man will give you contract, and the contract we're giving you is about $1 million contract. But my man, when we give you that $1 million contract, just be aware the work you're about to do is 500,000, the other 500,000 for me. I mean for us here. So you want to make sure when you collect the money, you send the money back to us. And there are 2-3 individuals involved. You see the movement of the money? So they are getting their proceeds from the crime. And when they get it, they retain it, they distribute it. Some of them put it in their account. Some of them decide to wire it somewhere to somebody else to keep it so they can trace it. All that when they do that, this is the retention of the proceeds of criminality. The law says anyone engaged in that and guilty of that must be charged with first-degree felony. Hello? So all of these questionable transactions that we're talking about, dishing out money above the threshold of $10,000 and the Central Bank of Liberia dished out 178 million over the counter in violation of the threshold. They further dished out 1.9 billion Liberian dollar in violation of the threshold on the counter to individuals, and also not individuals, to government entities. That's a violation in itself, let alone what the money was used for and who used it and for what. We have no idea. But the transactions are questionable. These are serious crimes we're talking about here. These individuals, if investigated and found guilty of these kind of crimes, the law says that should be first-degree felony. So it is a felonious crime to be involved into criminality, retaining the proceeds from that crime, let alone to distribute it to another, and then concealing it and removing it from one place to the other. This is a serious crime that we're talking about here. How will this country move forward when our leaders are always involved in this kind of criminality? And I'm not going to miss my language on this one. These are criminal acts. The law is clear. The law is telling you this is a criminal act. When one engages in that, when an institution engages in that, it is nothing short of criminality whatsoever. And so the law says when an individual engages in that, when an institution engages in that, that institution is liable of first-degree felony. Period. And so, for the president to think that it is only the central bank governor who must be held accountable in a callous way concerning these irregularities, these financial malpractices, the violations of our financial laws in broad day by a regulatory entity and individuals who are clothed with the opportunity, the powers of enforcing our financial regulatory laws. I've been caught red-handed based on this audit report, engaging in reckless behavior at a major financial institution in our country. These are serious crimes, and serious steps, serious actions must be taken. Suspension is not enough. Criminal indictments must be brought against the individuals if the audit report that we see here and the numbers that we're looking at here are serious numbers or actual numbers or accurate numbers. And one would think that these numbers must be accurate because they look at the books at the central bank. The auditing commission did not generate its own numbers. They were able to look at the books at the ministry, at the Central Bank of Liberia. And they look at the books and they realize that these numbers were being moved. They were moving money in these figures and these amounts recklessly without regard for our financial laws. And so I have every reason to believe that the GSE did not make up any number. All the numbers were based on their own record. And so these are serious crimes. To suspend the central bank governor is not enough. I don't even call that accountability because you basically tell the man, my man, sit down and relax. Let's see what's happening here. Yes, he's the only one. We are understanding that Imani Pearson, who is, I understand, is the deputy executive governor, resigned. For what reason is not clear. And there are other governors and deputy governors. Now, for your information, the Central Bank of Liberia have 5 governors, and then we have 2 deputy governors. If my research is not wrong. So, for example, the 2 deputy governors are the 2 deputy governors. Let me look at my note here that I got from my research. So we have J. Alosha Talu, who is the executive governor. Then we have D. Sheba Brown, who is one of the governors there. Then we have James B. Dennis as another governor. Then we have Timothy Thomas, another governor there. And then we have Rachel Dolly is another governor. Now, in addition to these governors, we have deputy governors, all right? The 2 deputy governors, we have Yimani Pearson and Musa Dukle. So if you look at all that, we have 5 plus 7, plus 3, that's 7. 7 governors. 7 governors, the executive governors and the 2 deputy governors, total make up of 7 governors. You cannot tell me that Alosha Talu alone can be held responsible for these kind of reckless financial practices that those people exhibited at the Central Bank of Liberia over the period. President Bwaka must do the needful. He, as much as he's allowed, ensure that this report, point to serious crimes. One man cannot commit a crime at a major institution. We are talking millions of dollars. In fact, the money that they dish out over the counter, the $178 million and the 1.3 and 1.9 billion Liberian dollar, if we put it together, if my number correct, it should be about 188 million United States dollars disbursed to institutions under questionable circumstances. Further understanding is needed. Criminal indictment, in my opinion, should come forth against the individuals. They should be investigated based on the findings of the GSE audit report. We must be serious here. The president said no business as usual. So the president should be the first person who will not be making decisions that are like business as usual. A lot of individuals in that place there, all the leaders, are responsible for these, irregularities. And then you say, oh, this one must go and the other can stay. And the president, he wasted no time and appointed another person. And the person he appointed coming from another bank. And our understanding is that that is the bank President Bouaka was taking loan from when he said that he was living on loan from, I think, IB Bank. And there where the president now took somebody from and appointed to replace just Alasha Tyler. This thing is not adding up. Hey, folks, focus on Liberia. Anthony said the hour of politics. We talk to show some highlights and to provide some context and understanding, on the GSE audit report on the Central Bank of Liberia. The numbers are alarming. One alarming figure is $15 million moved in 3 months' time from the Central Bank of Liberia to the NSA. What the deal with it in 3 months, no one knows. We need further understanding. We're talking about 178 million United States dollars dished out over the counter. For what reason? There's no clarity. And we're also talking about 1.9 billion Liberian dollars. Now, another thing the audit report revealed, the Unity Party, we need to hold Unity Party accountable. And folks, let's be clear here. This is nothing personal against any political institution, nothing personal against our leaders. It is our responsibility as citizens to hold them accountable, because the leaders will not hold themselves accountable because they are in a clique. They cover each other up. The only time they try to take action when they know that, whoa, this person is not from a political party, that is the time they want to take action. As we see with President Bouaka today, all of the individuals President Bouaka try to take action against are people from the former administration of CDC. No record of this president taking action against any individual from his ranks and file from a political institution when it comes to corruption. No whatsoever. Zero. Zip. Not one. Zero. Why? Is the president being selective here when it comes to accountability? You can't be selective. As the chief executive, it is your responsibility to hold your people accountable. Now, one low-hanging fruit I thought the president could just grab easily and nail it is the issue of asset declaration. To his credit, actually, I give him credit because President Bouaka was in violation. He promised to declare his asset. He failed to declare his asset before taking office because the law is clear. The act is clear. The law is clear that before any public official can take office, that public official must declare his asset. President Bouaka did not declare his asset before taking office. When we put the noise behind him, he later declared his asset and he refused to publish it. There has to be another pressure mounting behind him before he could publish his asset reluctantly, and he did. And Mr. Bouaka, who didn't have any money, who said he was living on loan, who saw several thousands of dollars in his asset declared. That is why he did not want to publish it. But that's besides the point. But here's the detail. Howbeit, President Bouaka declared and published his asset, not by his own will, but he was forced. That's what accountability does. That is the people's power. When we hold the people accountable, when we mount the pressure on them to do the right thing, they will comply. And if they don't comply, they know they're going to be in trouble the next election cycle. So that's what happened. Now, the point I'm making here is, according to the LACC, only 26% of President Bouaka government officials declare their asset. Hello? Only 26% of President Bouaka's government officials declare their asset. Folks, think about it. Only 26% of President Bouaka's officials declare their asset. So let's do the math here. We have 100%. Millions, 26%. So about 74% of Joseph Yema Bouaka government officials fail miserably, shamelessly to declare their assets. As we speak, President Bouaka has not uttered a war. President Bouaka has not taken any action, even though he himself will force him to declare his asset. He cannot muster the courage to force his officials to declare their asset. Our government officials are violating our laws day after day. This is business as usual. Mr. Bouaka promised us business as usual, but it's obvious that he is leading the charge here on business as usual. I mean, something that's simple. Declare your asset. Tell us you have money or you don't have no money. Tell us you have a house or you don't have a house. Put it together, make it public. Let the Liberian people see. It is a problem. 74% of this government fail to declare asset. In other words, the government only 26%. That is bad. And the president says that, and he's aware. President Walker has full knowledge. And these individuals are his officials that he appointed. So he's not taking action. The people he trying to take action on now, they are people he did not appoint. They are people from the past administration. We cannot be selective when it comes to accountability. And this is business as usual. So we will conclude by urging this administration to not become business as usual, because what we see here is even worse than business as usual. You can't even declare your asset. 74% of government fail to declare asset, or government officials declare their asset. Only 26 alone. And I urge the LSCC to publish the list of government officials who failed to declare their asset. Publish the list. Let us see those people who have not declared their asset. That way we can all go after them, just as we went after President Walker, and he will be forced to declare his asset. So at least President Walker should tell the LSCC, just release the list of individuals who have not declared their asset and give them an ultimatum to declare their asset. And if they don't do so, then the president can take action against them. But will that ever happen? Your guess is as good as mine. Folks, in cyberspace, this is how we'll come to the end of yet another edition of our program here. This is the Hour of Politics. My name is Anthony Sear, and I brought you yet another edition of the Hour of Politics. Until we see you again, when we do, remember, we are all Liberians, and that is what our song says. Indeed, we are all Liberians. Enjoy the sun. We are all Liberians, and we will see you again. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.